Are Malini Kachupillai and Mahavir Singh Bisht. Thank you for being here. So, Kirki Voice is published quarterly, is in Hindi and English. It's freely distributed in the neighborhood and online. If we go through one of the publications, what we can find is article about projects in local schools, local pioneering businesses, texts written by local writers and poets, features dedicated to local artists, and so on. Big part of the magazine is then dedicated to the current challenges of the village. Kirki has indeed a few characteristics that distinguish the area, and the most apparent is the fact that the community is largely constituted by immigrants, especially from Somalia, and there are then very strong other groups in the community, for example, refugees from Afghanistan.
I came from a neighborhood which was, very homogeneous in that sense. But Kirki was a very diverse experience for me, because for the first time I saw a lot of Africans on the street, and in the same locality, migrant workers and migrants from other states of the country. They were all huddled together into the same neighborhood. Khidki is not exactly like a ghetto, but it offers opportunities, because for everyone, because the rentals are very cheap, and you would see a lot of migrant population coming from other states of the country, most of them working in the unorganized sector. And then you would also see that due to the cheap rentals, a lot of youth come to Khidki to live there. And then there are small enterprises who hire craftsmen from other states.
Khidki is quite a dense neighborhood. Many different types of immigrants that come over and call it home temporarily. And there's been immigrants from the northeast of India. There's been immigrants from different parts of the Middle East. So the waves come and go. And around 2012, there was a big wave of immigrants from West African countries. Kirki Voice started in response to a residency at Khoj, which called artists to respond to historical and contemporary connections between India and the African continent. And my proposal was to have a publication that would be accessible, unintimidating, would use tools of art and creative expression to talk about complex racial tensions and misunderstandings that exist between communities, and find creative ways to bridge those divides. It was very critical that this publication be something that is casual, easy to access, easy to read, accessible to people who are not well read or don't read necessarily. And therefore, we came up with this very visual newspaper format that, instead of talking about racism directly, talked about differences and similarities between cultures. And it went on to take the form of something that would start to bridge a lot of divides that exist between social groups, and also start to bridge some of the class divisions. On the whole, I think we like to work with Khidki Voice as in two ways. Main way is to start to paint a more nuanced picture of this largely misunderstood and misrepresented neighborhood. And second is to examine the complexities, the contradictions, the aspirations of the larger city, but from the context of this neighborhood.
So this is the most recent that is online. And the first page is Meeting the Order. I'm going to read this first paragraph about the Dalit group so the untouchables, so the lowest social group in the intercaste system. I grew up in Kirki village and was very proud of the community. I loved the sense of belonging and familiarity. The fact that I knew each street, each family, each corner. But there was one street I did not know, even though the street was in the middle of the village and I never crossed it. While growing up, I was given specific instructions by my grandparents not to use that street.
This piece is a very interesting piece and is actually addressing the elephant in the room. Like the class division has always been there. We are a little privileged, and a lot of our family members they do follow these norms, but there is a certain denial also, and which is actually damaging the fabric of the communities through discrimination. Untouchability is a reality still in many rural parts of the country. Maybe in cities, these things get subdued. Yeah, but Khirki had been a village.
So this event was in 2014, soon after the politicians' unfortunate attack on Ugandan women in the neighborhood, but had been planned before that ever happened and before tensions boiled over. This was done by Astha and me. Astha is a dear friend who also works with community engaged practices. And Astha had been nurturing a group of young boys who grew up in Khirki from a very unprivileged background, got to meet a young artist who had moved to Khirki and started a hip hop studio, started teaching kids from the neighborhood, rapping and writing verse and doing moves. And Astha had been working with them for a while, and we'd also been working with the African community leading up to this festival. We had where the party was essentially all the elements that make up a party. There's music, there's dance, there's good food, there's space to hang out, there's space to engage, there's unfettered kind of opportunities for meeting, chatting, having a conversation over a small snack or what have you. The elements of the party make people come without inhibition. Music loosens somebody up. It makes you feel at a deeper level. You're unlikely to be in a hateful or a mood to kind of find ways to other somebody when there's some great music happening. Similarly, there's great food. You're not so likely to be like, oh, you're dark skinned, I don't like you, I'm not going to eat this food. So Khirki Talk Show came about as a collaboration with Swati Janu, which she had rented a street-facing shop to set up a green screen space where she was inviting just regular passers-by to come in and they wanted to in front of a green screen, and then she would insert a background digital image and created this whole library of YouTube videos around it. We thought that it would be really great to use this green screen room as a neutral space for conversation with this person of a community you probably never have had the opportunity to interact with. Lots of people haven't really actually had the chance to speak with an African origin person, and they just make up stories and they believe what their neighbors tell them because it's easier than trying to make conversation with a complete stranger of an ethnicity that you are unfamiliar with. In fact, in that picture, the old lady you see, and she was like, what's happening there and what are you guys doing? And we were like, oh, we're just having a conversation. And she came in and immediately had a lot of really frank questions. So this way of kind of having this neutral ground again, when you're in this kind of small space where there's an audience watching you, you're kind of forced to rethink how you're being seen. And it was kind of like being on TV, but on a street.
For the locals, it was a new experience because with the newspaper, we were distributing the newspaper, but it was really telling the story in a text form. But when something live was happening, people were actually engaging with Afghani people from Afghani community or different African groups So I think it was a great experience.